But the discourse for this season, it's been toxic. Like, my thing with this cast, where I'm particularly annoyed, is that I don't know. There's nobody in this cast this season that I feel like's been awful. That's been worth like having this overtly negative like opinion about them as compared to like past seasons. This season, they've just all been playing the game, and all been playing the game hard. The discourse for this season has just been too negative, and I just want to put some positivity to talk about this house in a positive light because this has been a great season in many ways. Like, and I'm here to kind of talk about the positive things that I've seen from every house guest, minus Luke. And I also want to reiterate Big Brother is a hard game. Like, Big Brother is a very hard game. What we think is the right move on the outside means nothing. These are some fun house guests, and we should look at them in a positive light. You should be happy that we have so many house guests that are trying to play Big Brother very hard. Even if they're not playing well, everybody is trying. Even Bowie Jane. Kirsten, she just needed more time. She was playing Big Brother a little too hard in week one. And in week one, the entire house is just looking for any reason to get somebody out. Like that's the hard part about being on the outs during week one is that the stupidest stuff will get you in trouble. And Kirsten, she just played a little bit too hard. Like by the end of the first week, she'd really started to make ground with Riley. I think there was a point where Riley and Matt like were both realizing like I think it'd actually be better if Kirsten stayed. Riley, she was like the glue that held the younger house guests together. All of them loved each other when Riley was in the house. Ever since she left, Matt, Jag, America, Blue, and Corey had no trust in each other. Like they'd keep trying to kind of work together. They kept trying to like trust the remnants of family style, but the trust was just gone. Riley was really the glue that held that group together. If she would have stayed, I really do think there's a good chance Riley runs the game for a good bit. It would have been very, very hard to get her out because she had Cameron, Jag, and Matt who all considered her their number one. And that would have been this wall of comp beasts right in front of her. Heisem, he was fiercely loyal and a comp beast. And we were able to call him a comp beast after 2 weeks. He probably could have won the pressure cooker as well. Like, I have a lot of confidence that Heisem would have done really well in a lot of the competitions that we've seen throughout the season. Red, he seemed willing to learn as well, and he was a man of his word. And that means a lot in the Big Brother house, more than you'd probably think. She was our chaotic queen, and she made feeds fun. And we know that for sure because with her gone, the feeds have been very dry. My take that I'll stick by forever is that Izzy did use the secret to her advantage. Izzy used the secret to secure two loyal allies that needed her in the house. If that week played out just slightly different, Cirie doesn't get stuck in a kayak, and Jared doesn't go on this tantrum against Corey and America, there's a good chance that Izzy gets very far because I don't see the Cirie power structure dissolving, at least not then. It would have lasted for another minute. The endgame would have figured itself out. Cameron, I'm going to make this quick and short. There is a way to defend Cameron. It's really easy because he's a good player. Not a great player, but he's a good player, and he's left an impact on the season, whether people want to like him or not. And while I've had a lot of criticisms about, how he went about taking those big shots and, how he moved in the house, when he did have, like, the right information, he had to be enlightened to get this information. But when he did have good information, he made good moves. Like, he made good decisions. The defense of Jared has always been, purely from a gameplay standpoint, he's been trying to navigate, like, playing his own game and making a name for himself while also playing with his mom in the house. And Cirie wasn't in the house. There's a good chance Jared's on Riley's side with family style, and he's floating with that Young People Alliance, and he would have done quite well, I actually think. He was an important player in those first few weeks in splitting up that side of the house and playing the middle, and for a long time, he had a good social game. He is probably the most low-key, dangerous player in the house right now. There's a good chance Matt gets very deep in this game, and it might be too late for anybody to get him out. I wanted to say Corey at first, but it's really Matt, because Matt is the one that, like, people come to when there's information. People kind of like want to tell him stuff, and he's floating to different rooms all the time, and he's having good conversations. People were crowning him like the worst Big Brother player ever, and I was defending this man. I was in the trenches defending this man. Jag is far from the worst Big Brother player ever, just period. Even when he was making awful decisions, like far from the first worst Big Brother player ever. He's went from the house pawn to a respected comp and strategic threat. The reason Jag was making bad moves was because he was coming from the vantage point of like the lowest in the power structure. And once he was kind of given, life in the game in the form of like allies that trusted him, Jag's been playing hard. It's not always great, but like it's good. Like Jag is a good player. He's better than a lot of people give him credit for. And I fully think that if like Family Style didn't break apart and Jag has Riley, who he fully trusted, and Riley fully trusted him, and he has like this big alliance that's just as willing to play as hard as he wanted to play, Jag would have been a very different player in that circumstance. Blue is also somebody I think she's been learning to play Big Brother as she's in the house. And it's not always pretty, but it's been cool to kind of see her as she starts to take in what the power structure is, who's in power, seeing how she moves based off of that. I give Blue a lot of credit because she was loyal to Jared, and it benefited her for the time that she was, for most of the time that she was. It helped put her in a very good position in the house. As she's like kind of figured out the new power structure and she's trying to learn the middle, you see a gamer in her. You see that she's not just kind of like in the house to make a name for himself. She's also here to play. But I don't know. I'm always willing to give credit to somebody that they're not necessarily making good moves, but they're trying to play. Like, and that's Blue right now. I think she's in between a rock and a hard place, and I'm willing to give her a lot more credit than other people are willing to give her. She's playing hard, and there are still people in the house that want to work with her. And even though she's given very little to other house guests in terms of like willingness to play with them, they still want to work with her, and she still receives information. She's still pulled in, and she's still viewed as somebody that's an important vote. And what I will say about her is she is good in conversation. People always leave conversations, even if she gave them no type of game information, they tend to leave conversations with Mimi thinking they're good with her. A lot of the other house guests have baggage. Like, there's reasons to distrust just about every other house guest, but Nicole, she doesn't have that baggage. We can't pretend like Felicia hasn't had an impact on this season. She had a really important impact at the beginning of the season when Riley won the HOH. Felicia walked into the HOH room and she made Riley spill who Riley was all close with. Like, she just straight up asked her, "Who are you working with? Who's in your alliance?" Like, and Riley spilled because it's so different. That's not how Big Brother's usually played. And that's my argument, where it's like you cast more diversely and the way Big Brother is played changes with it. America, we love America. I give America a lot of credit. I don't think she's a perfect player by any means. I definitely have like criticisms of her. But what I will say is she's had to earn her spot in the house that she's in right now. There was a good minute where like everybody kind of wanted her out. Like, she had nobody's trust. And she kind of had to earn her way into a respectable position. She clocked the big move. She was the one that was really pushing for Corey and Cameron to make a big move, to flip to take the shot at Cirie, Jared, Izzy, and even when it was constantly burning her, like even when she was constantly getting shot down, even when Cameron was openly disrespecting her to her face when she was trying to make him realize this, and when Corey was constantly disrespecting her behind her back to try to lower her threat level, she'd still push, and she'd push, and she got it. And now she's in a relatively good position in the house. Mr. Corey, Mr. Atomic Wedgie, can take a lot of credit for the engine, for being the engine of the biggest move of the season. Like, there were a lot of people that were important in making that happen, but Corey was the one that had put in work for weeks on building relationships with Matt, with Jag, with Bowie, with Nicole. Like, America had the read. She was the one that was pushing for it. But Corey was the one that had the social agency to make that happen. And he's constantly gaming, which I really also appreciate it. I also have my things with Corey where I have criticisms, but like ultimately he's playing a great game. And he's also somebody that I think you have to look at as a very good shot at winning if they let him get that far. She was the story of the first half of the season, and the way in which she dominated the house for that time was it's so unorthodox and different than what we're accustomed to seeing. I don't like it made it fun for me. Like Cirie brought such a unique like style of play to Big Brother, and I'm always going to be like thankful for being able to watch her in the Big Brother house. It was just so different. It was just all social game, and like you guys have pointed out, like she's made a lot of questionable moves. And while I've talked a lot about why she's made those questionable moves, like she is, playing this game for Jared at the end of the day. For a long time, none of it mattered. Like literally for weeks after the Heisem thing happened, it didn't have any effect on her game. There was a good chance that didn't matter. Like if, like I said, if I keep going back to the kayak veto punishment, like if that didn't happen, I think there's a good chance that the power structure isn't flipped to the degree that it was flipped. If she would have made it on top for another 2 weeks, it would have been very hard to take down Cirie. I think she also deserves like a ton of credit that she dominated the game for so long with the allies that she had. Because let's be real, like Felicia, Izzy, and Jared aren't the easiest people to have as like your inner core. Like she did a ton of managing for them. And it wasn't just her like making up for her mistakes. She was also making up for Jared's mistakes, for Izzy's mistakes, for Felicia's mistakes. What I'll say about Bowie Jane, she's Australian. We love that for her. She was dealt a bad hand. That really wasn't her fault. People just came into the house and didn't trust her, and she's never been able to shake that. And yet, here we are 50 days into the season, and she's becoming a very important player. Her house side of the house that you're on, she's considered an important vote.